The cargo ship shook hard as it dropped. Out of hyperspace, Jake Miller grabbed the pilot's seat and looked through the window. The Korath home world filled the view, a dark red planet with silver cities covering its surface like metal scars. "We're being scanned," Emma said from the co-pilot seat. Her fingers moved fast across the control panel. 3 warships coming our way. Jake had made this run 12 times before. The Korath were not friendly, but they liked human goods, medicine, electronics, things their pride would not let them build themselves. He always got through customs without trouble. Not today. The warships surrounded them within minutes. A cold voice came through the radio. "Human vessel, you are carrying illegal goods. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Illegal goods. Emma looked at Jake. Jake knew something was wrong. This felt planned, but he had no choice. Fighting 3 core warships was suicide. He powered down the engines and waited. Core soldiers came aboard like a storm. They were tall, 8 ft of gray skin, sharp teeth and eyes that looked like burning coal. They tore through the cargo bay, throwing boxes aside, breaking open containers. One of them held up a small metal cylinder. "Banned technology," the soldier said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "You are under arrest." Jake had never seen that cylinder before. Someone had put it there. Someone had set him up. They dragged him and Emma off the ship. Chains. The Korath did not believe in gentle treatment. By the time they reached the court building, Jake's wrists were bleeding and Emma had a cut above her eye. The High Court of Korath was a massive hall built from black stone. Thousands of Korath filled the seats above, looking down at the center platform where prisoners stood. Jake had heard stories about this place. Not many humans had seen it. Fewer had left it alive. High Lord Torrens sat on a throne made of bones, the bones of his enemies. Jake guessed. The emperor of the Korath was old but still powerful. His eyes were sharp and cruel. Beside him sat a younger female Korath. Her skin was silver instead of gray and her features were softer. She wore a crown of black metal. She watched Jake with an expression he could not read. "The human is accused of smuggling banned weapons into our space," a court official announced. "The punishment is death or slavery. How does the accused respond?" "Efforty." Jake stood straight. His body hurt, but he would not show weakness. "I did not bring those weapons. Someone put them on my ship." Laughter filled the hall. The core found his denial amusing. High Lord Torrens raised one hand and the laughter stopped. "All criminals claim innocence. Your words mean nothing here, human. You will die in the arena, or you will serve us forever. Choose." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. He had done nothing wrong. He had been trapped, used as a pawn in some political game he did not understand. Every instinct told him to fight, to resist, to refuse. He looked directly at High Lord Torrens and did not bow. The silence that followed was heavy. In core culture, refusing to bow before the emperor was the greatest insult. Jake did not know this. He only knew that he would not lower his head to someone who had stolen his freedom with lies. He insults the throne. A soldier growled, "Kill him now, High Lord." Torrens and Lt. Unken GT's eyes burned with cold fire. "Yes, immediate execution. Take him." "Wait." The voice was clear and calm. It came from the silver-skinned female beside the emperor. She stood from her seat, and every Korath in the hall turned to look at her. Lady Vesa Torin, said, his voice tight with warning. This does not concern you. It does, father. Vesa walked down the steps toward the center platform. Her gown flowed behind her like liquid metal. I invoked the bride's wager. Gasps filled the hall. Jake did not understand what was happening, but he saw the shock on every face, including Torin's. You cannot be serious, the Emperor said. The law is clear, Vesa replied. Any female of royal blood may claim an off-worlder for the bride's wager. If he defeats my champion, he goes free and becomes my consort. If he loses, he dies in the arena anyway. The result is the same for you, father, but the entertainment will be far greater. Jake finally understood. She was offering him a chance, a fight, instead of an execution, but there was something else in her eyes, something desperate. She needed this as much as he did. Torin studied his daughter for a long moment, then a slow, cruel smile spread across his face. Very well, Lord. Draven will be her champion. The human will face him in 7 days. More gasps. Some Korath laughed. Jake heard the name Draven repeated with fear and excitement. Vesa walked closer to Jake. She was tall, almost 7 feet. But she moved with grace, not aggression. Up close he could see that her eyes were not like the other core. They held sadness and hope. She raised one hand and pointed at a massive figure standing in the shadows. Jake looked and felt his stomach drop. Lord Draven stepped forward. He was huge, over 9 ft tall, with muscles like steel cables and scars covering his arms and chest. His face was brutal, his smile full of sharp teeth. He looked at Jake the way a cat looks at a mouse. Conquer him, human, Vesa said, her voice loud enough for the whole hall to hear. Then she leaned closer and whispered, and I am yours. Jake met her eyes. He saw the truth there. She was not trying to own him. She was trying to save them both. I accept, Jake said. The hall erupted. Some cheered. Some laughed. Lord Draven cracked his knuckles and grinned as the guards led Jake away. Emma caught his arm. Jake, that thing will kill you. We need to find another way. Jake looked back at Vesa, who was already walking away. She glanced over her shoulder once, just for a moment. There is no other way, Jake said. I have 7 days to figure out how to beat him. That's impossible, Jake smiled, though there was no humor in it. Then I'll do the impossible. Humans are good at that. The guards shoved him forward toward the dungeons below the arena. Above him, a million Korath waited for his blood. Somewhere in the palace, a princess had just bet her freedom on a human she had never met. Jake had faced death before. He had survived wars, crashes, and the cold emptiness of space. But this was different. This was a fight he was meant to lose. He decided right then that he would not lose. The dungeons under the arena smelled like blood and fear. Jake was thrown into a cell with stone walls and a floor covered in old stains. The guards laughed as they locked the door. 7 days, human, one of them said. Enjoy them, they are your last. Jake sat in the darkness and listened to the sounds around him. Other prisoners cried, some screamed. The arena above held fights every day, and he could hear the roar of the crowd through the stone ceiling. The next morning they came for him, not for execution, for training. The Korath had rules about their arena fights. Prisoners had to be given a chance to prepare. It made the entertainment better. The training ground was a large pit surrounded by high walls. Other prisoners were already there. Aliens from a dozen different species. Most of them were thin and broken. They had given up long ago. They trained. Because they were forced to, not because they believed they could win. A core trainer stood in the center. He was old, missing one arm, covered in scars. He looked at Jake and spat on the ground. "The human," he said, "the one who will fight Lord Draven. Come here." Jake walked forward. The other prisoners watched with empty eyes. "Do you know who Draven is?" the trainer asked. "I know he's big." The trainer laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Big, yes he is. Also fast, strong. His body heals wounds in seconds. He has killed 200 opponents. In this arena, 43 of them tried the same trick, waiting for him to make a mistake. He tore them apart. So he's never lost," Jake said. "Never, not once. Not even close." The trainer pointed at Jake's chest. "You are small, weak, slow. Your species breaks easily. You have no claws, no armor, no venom. Tell me, human, what do you have?" Jake thought about it. "I don't give up." The trainer stared at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "That is not enough, but it is something. Come, I will teach you what I can." The training was brutal. Jake learned Korath fighting techniques. How to hold their weapons, how to move, how to block. His body screamed with pain. By the end of each day, the other prisoners avoided him. They thought he was already dead. On the third night, Emma found a way to contact him. She had bribed a guard with the last of their credits. Her voice came through a small communication device hidden in his food. "Jake, I'm working on getting you out. Marcus Cole, the human ambassador, he's trying to find a legal solution." "There is no legal solution," Jake said quietly. "The Corps don't care about laws. They care about power. Then we'll find another way. We'll steal a ship. Will Emma, if I run, they'll use it as an excuse to hunt every human in this sector." I saw the way they looked at me. "This isn't just about me anymore." Emma was silent for a moment. "You're going to fight him?" "Yes, Jake, he's a monster. I've fought monsters before, not like this one." Jake smiled in the darkness. "I'll figure it out. I always do." The communication cut off. Jake lay on the cold floor and stared at the ceiling. He knew Emma was right. Draven was not like any enemy he had faced. The Korath champion was built to kill. Jake was just a cargo pilot with a stubborn streak, but giving up was not in his nature. His father had taught him that. Back on Earth when Jake was young, his father used to say, "The world will try to break you, son. It will push and push until you fall. Your job is to get back up every single time." Jake got up every morning and trained until he could not move. He studied the other fighters. He learned their weaknesses. He watched old recordings of arena battles when the trainers allowed it. He asked questions about Draven, how he moved, how he attacked, what he did when he was winning. On the fifth night, someone visited his cell. The door opened. Silently, a figure in a dark cloak stepped inside. Jake jumped to his feet, ready to fight. The figure lowered her hood. It was Lady Vesa. "Sit down, human," she said. "I'm not here to hurt you." Jake did not sit. "Why are you here?" Vesa looked at him with those sad silver eyes. "To tell you the truth, you deserve to know why you are about to die. You think I'm going to lose. Everyone thinks you will lose. The odds against you are 1,000 to 1. Korath gamblers are making fortunes betting on how quickly Draven will kill you." She paused. "But I did not choose you because I wanted entertainment. Then why, Vesa? Walked to the small window and looked. Out at the dark sky, my father has arranged a marriage for me, a political union with a warlord named General Vrak. He is cruel, violent, and powerful. If I marry him, our two empires will merge. My father will gain more territory and I will become property. Jake understood. The bride's wager is your way out. Yes, it is an ancient law. If the challenger wins, I am free from all other marriage contracts. I would belong to the victor. Instead, she turned to face him, but I did not choose you to become my owner, Jake Miller. I chose you because I have watched your species, watched us how the Kororath have studied humans for decades. You are weak, your bodies are fragile, you have no natural weapons. Vesa stepped closer, but you do not stop. When you fall, you stand. When you bleed, you keep fighting. When everyone says something is impossible, you do it. Anyway, your species is insane, and that is your greatest strength. Jake felt something shift inside him. She was not looking at him like a tool or a weapon. She was looking at him like a last hope. You think I can win, he said. I think you are the only one who might. Vesa reached into her cloak and pulled out a small data chip. This contains everything I know about Draven. His fighting style, his patterns, his weakness. He has a weakness, one he has never faced, an opponent he could not predict. Every enemy follows the same patterns because they were trained by Corey. They fight with honor, with rules, with tradition. Her eyes met his. You were not trained by Korath. You do not think like us. You are chaos, Jake Miller, and chaos is the only thing that can defeat perfection. She pressed the chip into his hand. Her fingers were cool against his skin. 2 days, she said. Study, learn, and when you face him, do not fight like a core. Fight like a human. She pulled her hood up and walked to the door. Before she left, she looked back at him. If you win, I will owe you my life. I do not take that debt lightly. Then she was gone. Jake stood alone in his cell, holding the chip. Outside, the arena waited. Above, a million Kororath expected his death. He had 2 days to become something Draven had never seen. He started studying. Immediately, the data chip changed everything. Jake spent hours watching recordings of Draven's fights. He watched the massive warrior crush opponent after opponent. He studied every movement, every attack, every moment of victory, and slowly he began to see Draven was perfect, but his perfection was also his prison. He fought the same way every time. He started with heavy strikes to break his enemy's defense. Then he used his speed to corner them. Finally, he finished with his signature move, a spinning blade strike that had killed 43 challengers. Every opponent tried to block. Every opponent tried to match his strength. Every opponent died. But Jake noticed something else. When Draven faced an unexpected move, a dodge in the wrong direction, an attack from a strange angle, he paused just for a moment. His perfect pattern broke and he had to think. That pause was his weakness. Jake began training differently. He stopped trying to learn Korath techniques. Instead, he practiced being unpredictable. He used moves from earth, boxing, wrestling, dirty street fighting. He threw sand. He rolled on the ground. He attacked from positions no core would ever use. The trainer watched him with confusion. What are you doing, human? This is not how warriors fight. I'm not a warrior, Jake said. I'm a survivor. News of the human challenger spread through the empire. Recordings of Jake's training sessions appeared on public screens. Most Korath laughed. They saw a weak creature, flailing around like a dying animal. They made jokes and placed bets on how many seconds he would last against Draven, but some watched more carefully. Some noticed that the human never stopped moving. He fell and got back up. He bled and kept fighting. He faced opponents twice his size and found ways to hurt them. On the sixth day, Lord Draven himself came to watch. The massive champion stood at the edge of the training pit, arms crossed, face hard with anger. Jake felt his presence like a shadow, blocking the sun. Every other prisoner in the pit stopped moving and bowed. Jake did not bow. You insult me with your existence, Draven said. His voice was like thunder. You are not a warrior. You are not a fighter. You are nothing but a soft animal that should have been killed on arrival. Jake looked up at him. Draven was enormous, a mountain of muscle and rage. Every instinct Jake's body screamed at him to run. Instead, he smiled. Then killing me should be easy, Jake said. Why are you so worried? Draven's face twisted with fury. He took a step forward and the guards tensed. I will enjoy destroying you. Human, I will make it slow. I will make you scream. Big talk from someone who has never fought. Anything unexpected. Jake turned his back on Draven and returned to his training. See you in the arena. The silence that followed was total. No one had ever spoken to Draven like that. No one had ever turned their back on him. The other prisoners stared at Jake like he was already dead. Draven's roar shook the pit. The match will be tomorrow. I demand it. I will not wait another day to kill this creature. Within hours, High Lord Tauren granted the request. The fight was moved up. Jake would face Draven at sunset the next day. That night, Emma finally got through to him again. Jake, Marcus found something. The whole thing is a setup. Tauren arranged for those weapons to be planted on your ship. He wanted a human to humiliate in the arena. There's a political faction that wants war with human colonies, and they're using you as propaganda. Jake closed his eyes. He had guessed as much. It doesn't matter. Now it matters. If you die tomorrow, Tauren will use the footage to turn his people against humanity. He and LT Unk and GT LLC were weak. He and LT Unk and GT LLC were easy targets. Then I won't die. Emma's voice cracked. Jake, please, there has to be another way. There isn't. Listen to me, Emma. If I lose tomorrow, take our ship and run. Get out of Korath. Tell everyone what happened here. Make sure they know we didn't start this. I'm not leaving you. You are, because if something happens to me, someone needs to warn Earth. Jake paused. Promise me. Jake, promise me. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then Emma's voice came through, broken and tired. I promise. Good. I'll see you after the fight. The communication ended. Jake sat in the darkness and thought about home. He thought about Earth's blue oceans and green forests. He thought about his father's voice, his mother's cooking, the small apartment where he grew up. He had left Earth to find adventure among the stars. He never expected to die in an alien arena for a crime he did not commit, but if he was going to die, he would die fighting. He would die standing up. Noise at the door made him look up. Guard opened the cell and threw something inside. It was a small package wrapped in cloth. Jake opened it carefully. Inside he found a small knife, not a weapon but a tool. and beneath the knife he found a piece of paper with words written in careful human letters: fight smart, stay unpredictable, make them remember. It was signed with a single letter, V. Jake held the knife in his hand. It was not much against Draven's plasma blade. An energy shield, it was almost nothing, but it was something he could hide, something unexpected. He began to form a plan. The next morning they came for him early. The guards dragged him through long tunnels filled with other prisoners. Trainers and officials, everyone watched him pass. Some whispered, some laughed, some looked at him with something that might have been respect. The tunnel ended at a massive gate. Beyond it, Jake could hear the roar of the crowd, a million voices screaming for blood. The sound was so loud it made the ground shake. A guard unlocked his chains and handed him his weapons: plasma blade and an energy shield. Standard arena equipment. Jake had practiced with them, but he was not skilled. Draven had used these weapons his entire life. Any last words? Human, the guard asked. Jake looked at the gate. Behind it waited a monster, an empire and impossible odds. Yeah, he said. Open the door. The gate rose slowly. Light flooded in, blinding after the darkness of the tunnels. The crowd's roar hit him like a physical force. Jake Miller stepped into the arena. Across the sand, Lord Draven waited. The fight for everything was about to begin. Arena was a circle of sand and stone, half a mile wide. Stands rose around it like mountains, filled with a million Kororath. Spectators screaming for violence. Banners hung from every surface. Giant screens showed the fight from every angle across the galaxy. Billions watched on their screens, including the human colonies. Jake walked toward the center, feeling small and exposed. The sun beat down on him. The sand was hot under his feet. He could smell blood. Old blood soaked into the ground from thousands of previous fights. Lord Draven stood waiting. The champion wore ceremonial armor that covered his massive body in black metal plates. His plasma blade glowed with blue fire. His energy shield hummed with power. He looked like a god of war. Jake looked like a man who had made a terrible mistake. High Lord Torrens' voice boomed through speakers placed around the arena. Citizens of the Korath Empire, today you will witness the bride's wager. The human challenger, Jake Miller, will face our undefeated champion, Lord Draven. The winner takes all. The crowd roared. Jake glanced up at the royal viewing platform. Lady Vesa sat beside her father, her face carefully blank, but her hands were gripping the arms of her chair so hard her knuckles had turned white. Begin, Torren commanded. Draven moved like lightning. The first strike came so fast Jake barely saw it. He threw himself to the side and felt the plasma blade pass inches from his face. The heat burned his skin. He rolled and came up running. Draven followed. Second strike hit Jake's shield and sent him flying. He crashed into the sand and tasted blood. The crowd laughed. Stand and fight. Insect, Draven roared. Face your death with honor. Jake struggled to his feet. His arm was numb from the impact. The shield was damaged, sparking and flickering. He had been in the fight for 10 seconds and was already losing, but he was still alive. He remembered Vesa's words: fight smart, stay unpredictable. Draven expected him to stand and trade blows. Every Kororath opponent did that. It was the honorable way. Jake threw his damaged shield at Draven's face. Champion batted it aside easily, but it distracted him for half a second. In that moment, Jake sprinted past him and scooped up a handful of sand. When Draven turned, Jake threw the sand directly into his eyes. The crowd fell silent. Throwing sand was not honorable. It was the tactic of a coward, a weakling, a desperate animal. Draven roared in fury and swung blindly. Jake ducked under the blade and slashed at Draven's leg. The plasma blade barely scratched the armor, but it left a mark. First blood. To the human you dare. Draven wiped his eyes and focused on Jake with pure hatred. I will tear you apart piece by piece. Well, Draven wiped his eyes. He attacked again, faster this time, angrier. Jake could not dodge forever. The third strike caught him across the chest and sent him spinning. Blood sprayed across the sand. The crowd cheered. Jake hit the ground hard. Pain exploded through his body. He could see his blood soaking into the sand around him. The wound was deep. He was dying. Get up, his father's voice said in his memory. The world pushes you down. You get back up. Jake got up. The crowd went quiet again. On the screens, billions watched the human rise from what should have been a killing blow. His blood was everywhere. His weapon was gone. He could barely stand, but he was standing. Draven hesitated. This was not how it was supposed to happen. His opponents fell and stayed down. They begged for mercy. They accepted death. They did not get up. What are you? Draven whispered. Human. Jake said, we don't know how to stay down. He charged. Draven swung to finish him, but Jake did something impossible. Instead of dodging left or right, the patterns Draven expected, he dropped to the ground and slid between the champion's legs. As he passed, he pulled out the small knife Vesa had given him and drove it into the gap behind Draven's knee where the armor was weak. Draven screamed and stumbled. It was the first time anyone had ever heard him scream in pain. Jake came up behind him and jumped onto his back. He wrapped his arm around Draven's throat and squeezed. Draven thrashed and roared, trying to throw him off, but Jake held on with every ounce of strength he had left. You cannot defeat me. Draven grabbed Jake and threw him across the arena. Jake hit a stone pillar and felt something break inside him. The world went dark for a moment. When he opened his eyes, Draven was standing over him. The champion was limping. The knife wound had done more damage than expected, but he was still standing, still deadly. You are brave, human. I will grant you that. Draven raised his plasma blade for the killing strike, but bravery is not enough. Jake saw his own death in the champion's eyes. He saw the blade falling toward his head. He saw everything slow down, the way it does in the last moments of life. And then he saw the knife handle still sticking out of Draven's knee. With the last of his strength, Jake kicked upward. His foot connected with the knife handle, driving the blade deeper into Draven's wound. The champion's leg buckled. Draven fell forward. Jake moved on pure instinct. As Draven collapsed, Jake grabbed a jagged piece of broken stone from the ground. He swung it with both hands and drove the sharp edge into the gap between Draven's helmet and chest armor. The crack of impact echoed through the silent arena. Draven made a gurgling sound. His eyes went wide. He reached for his throat, where dark blood was pouring from the wound. He tried to rise, but his body would not obey. Undefeated champion of the Korth Empire fell face first into the sand. He did not get up. Jake stood over the body, covered in blood, most of it his own. His legs were shaking, his vision was blurring. He could feel his life draining away with every heartbeat, but he was standing, the silence in the arena stretched for an eternity. Million Korath stared at what they had just witnessed. Their greatest warrior had fallen, a human had done the impossible. Then from somewhere in the stands a sound began, not from the Korath, from the other species, the visitors, the off-worlders who had come to watch. They started clapping, then cheering, then screaming in joy. Human had won. On the royal platform, High Lord Torrhen's face was twisted with rage. Beside him, Lady Vesa had tears streaming down her face. Jake looked up at her. He tried to smile, but his body was giving up. The pain was too much. The blood loss was too great. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Vesa running down from the platform, screaming for the healers. Then everything went black. Jake woke up in a bed made of soft fabric he did not recognize. The ceiling above him was white and clean, not the dark stone of the dungeons. Medical machines beeped quietly around him. He was alive. He tried to move and gasped at the pain. His chest was wrapped in bandages. His arms were covered in healing patches. Everything hurt, but the pain meant he was still breathing. Don't move. Emma's voice came from beside him. She was sitting in a chair, dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she had not slept in days. The doctor said, "You almost died 3 times. Your heart stopped twice on the operating table, but it started again," Jake said. His voice was rough. "Yeah, it did." Emma smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. "You crazy idiot. You actually won." Jake tried to remember the arena, the fight, Draven falling, then darkness. "How long have I been out?" 5 days. "The core healers are good, but you lost so much blood. They weren't sure you'd wake up." Emma took his hand. "You're famous now, you know. The fight was broadcast across the galaxy. Humans everywhere are calling you a hero." Jake did not feel like a hero. He felt like a man who had barely survived a nightmare. The door opened. Lady Vesa entered the room, followed by 2 guards. She wore a simple dress. Instead of her royal gown, her silver skin seemed brighter, her eyes less sad. "Leave us," she said to the guards. They hesitated, then stepped outside. Emma stood up. "I'll be outside too. You two need to talk." When they were alone, Vesa walked to Jake's bedside. She looked at his bandages, his wounds, the machines keeping him alive. "You did it," she said quietly. "You did the impossible. I got lucky." "No, luck had nothing to do with it. I watched the recordings 100 times. You were faster, smarter, more adaptable. You fought in ways Draven had never seen." She paused. "You fought like a human." Jake managed a weak smile. "Is that a compliment?" "The highest one my people can give." Vesa sat on the edge of his bed. "By our law, you have won the bride's wager. I am freed from my marriage contract, and I belong to you now." The words hung in the air between them. Jake looked at her. This woman who had risked everything on a stranger, who had given him the tools to survive, who had screamed for healers when he fell. "No," he said. Vesa's eyes widened. "What? You don't belong to anyone. Not to me, not to your father, not to that warlord he wanted to sell you to." Jake reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak, but his voice was strong. "Where I come from, people aren't property. You're free, Vesa. That's what I won for you. Freedom, Vesa." stared at him. In her entire life, no one had ever offered her choice. Her culture was built on ownership and conquest. The winner took the prize. That was the way it had always been. I don't understand, she whispered. You could have anything, power, wealth, a princess as your servant. Why would you give that up? Because taking it would make me no different from Draven. No different from your father. Jake squeezed her hand. I didn't fight to own you. I fought because it was the right thing to do. Tears ran down Vessa's silver cheeks. She did not wipe them away. My people will not understand this, she said. They will see it as weakness. Let them. I don't care what they think. Vessa laughed a real laugh, full of surprise and joy. You are the strangest creature I have ever met, Jake Miller. I'm human. We're an LT Unc and GT, all strange. The door opened again. This time, guards in formal armor entered, followed by High Lord Torin himself. The Emperor and LT Unc and GT's face was cold and hard. Behind him, Ambassador Marcus Cole followed, looking nervous but determined. The victor awakens, Torin said. There was no warmth in his voice. You have embarrassed my empire, human. You killed my champion with tricks and cowardice. I killed him, Jake said. That's what matters. The law protects you for now. Torin and LT Unc and GT's eyes burned with hatred. My daughter is freed from her obligations. You may take her and leave Korath, but know this: you have made an enemy today. The Korath do not forget. Ambassador Cole stepped forward. High Lord, the human colonies have been watching this closely. Any action against Jake Miller or the human race will be seen as an act of war. I don't think that serves anyone's interests. Torin's jaw tightened. He was trapped, and he knew it. Jake's victory had changed everything. The galaxy had watched a human defeat the best the core had to offer. Attacking humanity now would look like revenge, not strength. Go, Torin said. Take your ship and leave. If I ever see you in my space again, human, no law will save you. He turned and walked out. Guards followed. Marcus let out a long breath. That was close. The Korath military faction wanted to kill you quietly and blame it on your injuries. It took a lot of diplomatic pressure to stop them. Thank you, Jake said. Thank yourself. You just gave humanity something we've never had before: respect. The other species are looking at us differently now. Marcus smiled. Osa, you should heal up and get out of here before Torin changes his mind. 2 days later, Jake was strong enough to walk. Emma helped him to their ship, which had been released from impound. The cargo was still there, minus the planted weapons which had mysteriously disappeared. Vessa was waiting at the dock. She had changed her clothes. Instead of royal gowns, she wore simple traveling gear. A single bag sat at her feet. She looked nervous, uncertain, emotions Jake had never seen on her face before. Going somewhere? He asked. With you, if you'll have me. She lifted her chin. Not as property, not as a prize, as a partner. I want to see what else is out there. I want to learn about your people, your worlds, your way of life. Jake looked at Emma. Emma shrugged. I always wanted to learn more about aliens. And she did save your life. Jake turned back to Vessa. You understand? We're just cargo pilots, right? No palaces, no servant, just a ship, long routes, and a lot of instant meals. It sounds wonderful, Vessa said, and she meant it. Jake held out his hand. Welcome aboard. Vessa took it as the ship lifted off. From Core, Jake watched the planet shrink. Below them, somewhere down there high, Lord Torin was plotting revenge. War might be coming, the future was uncertain, but right now in this moment they had won. A human had done the impossible. A princess had found her freedom, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. Emma set the course for home. The stars stretched into lines as they jumped to hyperspace. So Emma said, "What do we do now?" Jake looked at Vesa, then at the stars ahead. He thought about everything that had happened. The arena, the fight, the victory that almost killed him. We showed them what we are, he said. Now we show them what we can become. The ship flew on, carrying 3 souls toward an uncertain future. Behind them, a legend was being born. The story of the human who conquered the unconquerable, and in the hearts of every human who had watched, something new had taken root. Pride, hope, and the knowledge that no matter how big the monster, no matter how impossible the odds, humanity would always find a way to stand back up. That was the human